Hello, 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 hello. This is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, coming to you on a Wednesday afternoon. I mean, the weeks just seem to be flying by. We're already in summer, and I just remember it looked like yesterday we were in January, but we're moving along. Glad to be with you. Hope you're doing well out there. And just glad to just come to you and just share information with my educators and my educational leaders out there. We have to come together as far as sharing information, because that's the only way we'll be able to stay and do what we do with our students, by sharing information, obtaining information, looking at the news and seeing what's the latest of everything out there associated with education. But before I do that, I'm asking the question. I'm asking the question. Have you been able to go over to aureliadavis.com and clicked on the Thrive Retreat? I'm presenting it in a question. Have you been able to go over to aurelia.com and click on the Thrive Retreat? The Thrive Retreat will be happening July 30th through August 4th. I almost missed it. July 30th through August 4th. This retreat has been especially designed for educators to come together, to share, to relax, to do yoga, to eat good food. I mean, we're going to do it there. We're going to do it in Tulum, Mexico. And if you have not had the opportunity to go over to my website now and look up the Thrive Retreat and get all of the information and get and register, do it today. Do it right now, as soon as I get through talking to you. Okay, but in the meantime, I am just here today because I think I get a little fed up with educational buzzwords. I just say that again, educational buzzwords. I mean, when I was teaching, they talked about oh my goodness, I hope I can remember some of them. Cooperative grouping, and it was a few more I can't think of, but some of the ones that they're using today, social emotional learning, and then they have educational leaders in the building, so on and so forth. I forget that acronym for them. But the latest word I've ran across that sort of gave me a minute to just sort of decide, okay, what does this mean? School connectedness, not connectiveness, school connectedness. Okay. And what that basically means is that schools coming together to meet the overall needs of their students. In other words, administrators and buildings coming together to meet every need of their student: physical, emotional, um, spiritual, some spiritual in some of the schools that are religious. But in the meantime, the well-being of a child. And I believe this has started because our children are coming in with less care. In other words, they're coming in as fragmented individuals. They're sort of broken up when we get them. And and so we see the children, and they're really not constant. They can't concentrate. They may have some behavioral issues, which is why social emotional learning came into being. But at the same time, you get these individual children, and they just seem to be sort of just all over the place, all over the place. So many different influences that they have on the outside of the classroom, on the outside of the school building, that teachers have to basically fight with in order for them to come back in and be able to teach these children. So connectedness means that the school itself would set up a program where they are meeting the social, emotional, mental needs of every child in that building, kindergarten through eighth grade, or if you're talking about a high school, you're talking about freshman through senior years. And so I think it's good. I think it's good, but it's something, if I think about it, that's something that we did back in the 90s and the 80s when the children, and in fact, it was something that was done for me when I was attending school. Teachers were so dedicated to individual children in that particular classroom that they met every need that child needed to be met at that particular time. So if we're talking about if children came in and, say for instance, they needed a haircut, there usually was somebody in the building that can give a resource to a parent and say, take him over to get his hair cut or his hair done over such and such. But my mom said that even when she was working as a teacher assistant, that the children would come in if their hair was not combed and whatever, especially African American children. She said they were given permission to, the parents would give them permission to do the child's hair, to brush and comb that child's hair. So that was meeting a physical need at that time. And then what we then of course we started meeting the needs as far as them being fed, so we started offering breakfast, lunch, and then sometimes if they were staying for after school programs, we offered dinner, okay, and snacks and things like that, because we stopped assuming or stopped taking for granted that the children had everything they needed at home. And so that school was basically a place where children can get fed, clothed. They Some children were allowed to go in and they would put down pallets and let them sleep. I've seen all of this happening. So schools are going back to this because, and they call it connectedness, because they feel that a lot of their children do not have are not coming into the building prepared to learn. They're not coming into the building prepared to learn. And I totally agree, before you can teach a child, the child has to be in the right mindset as far as he has to feel good about himself and just be ready to accept what you're doing. But if they're carrying over issues from last night or the weekend, then you have an issue, then you're not going to, they're going to be, that's a distraction that they're going to have in place where they won't be able to learn and get what they need. So school connectiveness means that the program will be starting from the administrators and just flow throughout the building. So I have not heard how this is basically set up, but I think that if I had the opportunity to see this program in place, I think it might be nationwide, and I don't know if there's a individual program for it, but if I was in a building, I would possibly meet with all of the teachers in my building. And then what we would do is probably talk about the issues that teachers are having in the classroom right here and now. In other words, how many children have been tardy? How many children how many children are having behavior problems? How many of your students come in saying that they're hungry? How many students come in and put their heads down on their desk because they haven't gotten enough sleep from the night before? So looking at taking a survey of your building to find exactly what the needs are is the first step to doing this. And in the meantime, it's not only good to do the connectedness from the administrators down to the teachers and the leaders, but it's also good to have that connectedness in the classroom. You as a teacher should be able to tap into every need that your students have. And does it mean that you're going to be able to solve every problem? No, it does not. It does not mean you're going to be able to solve every problem, but for those problems that you can solve them, because that will give you a student that's eager to learn. That'll give you a teachable child. That will give you a teachable child. But for those problems that you cannot solve, that's when the resources and stakeholders outside in the community should be able to come in and give you the resources you need in order for Johnny to meet homelessness, or for Sally to meet a social worker, because they don't have their home does not have the may not have heat or electricity and things like that. So we're talking about building the school within itself as far as being connected to every child in that building. But at the same time, we must reach out to the outside community to also basically use the resources that are in that community to help the children in that particular school. It sounds complicated, but it can be very, very simple. It can be very, very simple. That's why we are continuing to fight for full-time nurses, full-time social workers, full-time counselors, full-time psychologists in these schools. We need them in every building, because you just cannot uh, hold a case off to the point where the child is having issues today, but they can't meet with the social worker or the psychologist because they won't be there till next week. No, that person needs to be in the building. So funding is going back into a lot of schools now, neighborhood schools. Funding is going back into neighborhood schools to meet the needs that they need at this particular time so that their schools can thrive and grow and be able to meet the needs of those children that live across the street or next door to the school. That's what schools are for. And even though we did not start that way, or even back in the day, that's what schools did. We're back at that point again, where we have to be the be all end all for the students that we serve in the schools today. So think about it. If you find some interesting information, or if your school is doing connectedness, email me and let me know exactly how it might be working, and I will basically look into it a little bit more myself to see if I can find some real examples of the connected school system being in place in, like, especially the urban cities or urban areas and so on and so forth, or inner cities. But this is Aurelia Davis coming to you on a Wednesday. Hope everybody is doing great and fantastic. I am loving life, and I hope you are too. Teachers, keep it moving, keep it moving. You're almost there. But in the meantime, also go to my website, aureliadavis.com, and click on the Thrive Retreat and see what's waiting there for you. Hope to see you there soon. Take care and have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.